And then when it said to them, وَإِذَا قِيلَ لَهُمْ آمِنُوا أَوْ قِيلَ لَهُمْ آمِنُوا كَمَا آمَنَ النَّاسُ قَالُوا أَنُؤْمِنُ كَمَا آمَنَ السُّفَهَاءُ. So when they say to them, believe as the people believe, they say, shall we believe as imbeciles believe? Like sufaha, safih is like a idiot, a stupid person, somebody that can't take care of himself. Should we believe like idiots? And this idea that religion's a crutch, that it's for weak people, that strong people don't need religion, they just stand up on their own. Yeah, until they get multiple scleroses. Until they're incapacitated and they need people around them to take care of them. I mean, we're constantly in need. We're in need in every instant. Our hearts could stop at any instant. I mean, I had a dear friend who literally just collapsed the other day and crushed his skull. He had to have multiple surgeries and metal plates put into his head. He was a perfectly healthy person, a mountain climber, young, relatively young man, really strong, but he collapsed. And he said it was like a great wake-up call for him, even though he was already a devout Muslim, but he was like, I felt like God was really sending me a huge message. I need to change my life. I need to get better. That's an appropriate response to tribulation, instead of getting angry. And why are you doing this to me? Because there's all these people. That's their attitude. Why are you doing this to me? Allah, there's no why for Allah. لا يسأل عما يفعل. لا يسأل عما يفعل. He's not asked about what he does. He's not asked about what he does. But you will be asked. They will be asked about what they're doing. وَإِذَا لَقُوا الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا قَالُوا آمَنَّا وَإِذَا خَلَوْا إِلَى شَيَاطِينِهِمْ قالوا إن معكم إنما نحن مستهزئون إن معكم إنما نحن مستهزئون. And when they encounter those who believe, they say, we believe. But when they are alone with their obsessions, and that's very interesting. خَلَوْا إِلَى شَيَاطِينِهِمْ. Khalwa is to be alone. And one of the things that Dr. Cleary really, he had a great knowledge of the mind and wrote many books on meditation and on the mind. So he really understood the nature of obsessions, obsessive compulsive thoughts, of these type of things, that these can really, really wreak havoc on people. And so shayateen are like obsessions. There's this constant waswasa that goes on. And they say, we're with you, إِنَّمَا نَحْنُ مُسْتَهْزِئُونَ. So we're with you, we're just mocking them. Istihza, كَفَيْنَاكَ الْمُسْتَهْزِئِينَ. The mustahzi'in all had terrible outcomes. Allahu yastahzi'u bihim. This does not mean that God, jaza min jins al-amal. So Allah does not do istihza in this way. This is a type of rhetorical device in which it's saying that they're going to get what they're doing. So Allahu yastahzi'u bihim wa yamudduhum fi tughyanihim ya'mahun, and amplifying their outrages as they wander astray. أولئك الذين اشتروا الضلالة بالهدى فما ربحت تجارتهم وما كانوا مهتدين. They are the ones who have bartered guidance for error. So they traded guidance for error. They gave up their guidance for this dalala. فما ربحت تجارتهم. This is a beautiful expression that the Prophet ﷺ used when Suhaib al-Rumi made his famous hijrah. And Suhaib, they wouldn't let him leave because he's called a Rumi. There's a khilaf about what his actual lineage was, but he grew up amongst the Byzantines, although he had Arab lineage. But they said, you came to us a foreigner and you became wealthy here. We're not going to let you leave without your wealth. So he gave up all. He just said, you can have it all. I just want to go be with the Prophet ﷺ. So when he got to Medina, without telling the Prophet what he did, because the angel told the Prophet what he did, he said, رَبِحَتْ تِجَارَتُكَ يَا أَبَا يَحْيَى. Your tijara was profitable. Because he gave up all of his dunya for akhirah. And these people do the very opposite of that. مثلهم كمثل الذي استوقد نارا فلما أضاءت ما حوله ذهب الله بنورهم وتركهم في ظلمات لا يبصرون. What they are like is one who lit a fire, and when it illumined everything around, God took their light and left them in darkness, unseeing. So one of the things about life is that people do have insights, and they do have periods. Winston Churchill famously said, everybody stumbles onto the truth at least once in their life, and the vast majority of people simply get up, brush themselves off, and carry on. And I think that he was really talking about himself, because apparently, and there was an article in The Guardian about some of his diaries and some correspondence between family members. He actually considered becoming Muslim at one time. And he was convinced by his family that it would destroy his political career if he did. And that was published in The Guardian magazine. You can look that up. But people do make dunyawi choices. Like choosing to become a Muslim is choosing right now in our current time to become part of an oppressed minority, really. So although some people seem to be happy to do that as well. But it's nobody said it was going to be easy, and Allah promises with the hardship ease. So there's great difficulties in becoming Muslim at a time when the Muslim world is so beleaguered and the Muslims don't look particularly like they're flourishing as a community. I think, inshallah, there's a greater reward than when they're successful. Because a lot of people want to become Americans or Europeans because of their success. I once met a Muslim who actually left Islam and became a Mormon. And I asked him why he did that. Amazing. And he said he looked to the most successful community. And he just wanted to be successful. He actually came back to Islam, thank goodness. But he literally told me he became a Mormon because he wanted to be successful. So, success with Allah or success with Mammon, I mean, you choose. It doesn't mean they're mutually exclusive. One of the reasons Abdurrahman ibn Auf, the Prophet saw him entering paradise crawling, was because he was so engaged in the world, even though it was for other worldly means, but he was so engaged in the world as a merchant. So there's no reason why you can't be a successful merchant and a Muslim. In fact, the Prophet ﷺ was the most successful merchant. So it's good to be successful in your worldly endeavors. But if you're not, then it's either, there are a couple different possibilities. One, you're not following the proper sunan of success, which is very often, I mean, Dr. Cleary told me once that there's a year in China where the Buddhists call it the year that grace descended, because Buddhism suddenly had this incredible expansion during that year. And he said it was actually the year that the monks got organized. So it's not mutually exclusive. But people often, I mean, Muslims are often really poor at organization and execution. I mean, I know Muslims that work at the top levels at like Google or Facebook, but then they're on the mosque board and they run the board. It's like they're not using any of the skill sets that they learn in these other places, just basic managerial skill sets of how to run things well, how to get things done properly. I mean, these are all things that Muslims should be foremost at, because in Allah yuhibbul abdi idha amila amalan an yutqinahu. Allah loves a servant, should he do a thing, he does it with excellence. In Allah yuhibbul abd muhtarif. Allah loves a servant. Ihtirafiyya in modern Arabic is professionalism. So a modern translation of that could be, Allah loves a professional servant, a servant who does things with excellence, with hirfa, with craft, with skill, a skilled servant. Summum bukmun umyun fahum la yarji'un. Deaf, dumb, and blind. They will not get back. Deaf, dumb, and blind is very interesting. I mean, there are people that suffer these grave tribulations in the world, and part of their meaning, obviously, I would never limit that, but part of their meaning is for something like this to be realized, that there are people that don't have hearing. In fact, Dr. Cleary was deaf in one ear, he was partially deaf. And it's very difficult to be partially deaf or deaf in the world. Many people now, young people are losing their hearing because they have the headphones and earphones, and so they don't know the preciousness of hearing. It's a great gift to be able to hear. And then dumb, not be able to speak. And all of us have been struck dumb at one time in our lives. I mean, everybody's had that point where they literally were speechless, were unable to speak. But there are people that can't speak ever. And if they're lucky, they sign. There was an amazing man at Tuimarat, where I studied with Marabat al-Hajj, who was blind. He was deaf and dumb, but he was not blind. He could speak somewhat, but he could read lips. He learned how to read lips. I don't know how he did that. He was a very unusual person. But all the people around Marabat al-Hajj, you saw things there that just were very unusual. And then blind, to be blind is a great tribulation, but it's also something that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala generally, when He takes away some things, He enhances with other things. So blind people are very often, many of our greatest ulama were blind. In fact, Al-Azhar had a special place for the handicaps, because handicapped people, unlike in traditional Western culture where they were literally relegated to uselessness, in the Muslim world they were often given special training, so they had special ed. And in fact, Sheikh Abdullah al-Qadi actually did a study of all the handicapped ulama, and he was amazed at how many there were handicapped ulama. So, but Allah is using this as an analogy for people. It's as if they have ears but they don't hear. They have tongues but they don't speak because they're not speaking the truth. And they have eyes but they don't see. So they don't hear the truth, they don't speak the truth, and they don't see the truth. And this is the famous, the monkey from India, which is a beautiful meaning. Like, people take it the opposite of what it actually means. It's that we should hear no evil, speak no evil, and see no evil. That's a type of purity in people. So, alhamdulillah, I think, I think we have a few more minutes. Or like a rain cloud, كَصَيِّبٍ مِّنَ السَّمَاءِ فِيهِ ظُلُمَاتٌ وَرَعْدٌ وَبَرْقٌ يَجْعَلُونَ أَصَابِعَهُم فِي آذَانِهِم مِّنَ الصَّوَاعِقِ حَذَرَ الْمَوْتِ وَاللَّهُ مُحِيطٌ بِالْكَافِرِينَ. I think he has a really nice, he's got a really interesting. Yeah, so he says the manifestation here, just before this, he says about the obsessions, shayateen. From this is derived English Satan, one of the names of the devil. This Arabic name comes from a root meaning to be perverse or obstinate, essential characteristics of obsession, referring to satanic rebellion against God, manifests as arrogance, ingratitude, and possessive obsession with things of the world. Another name of the devil comes from the root waswasa, which has the meaning of whispering or suggestion, referring to obsession as the epitome of the satanic characteristic and the activity. This particular verse depicts fools who publicly declare their faith in God, yet privately declare their devotion to their personal idols and obsessions, be it status, wealth, or anything else that may preoccupy their minds. The very levity with which hypocrites and fools treat their religion as a profession without a reality lets them go all the further, both in the outrages committed openly under the guise of piety and those committed covertly on the prompting of private obsessions. Outrages here, tughyan, means to transgress, exceed proper bounds, wander. And then he talks about the light that they see. This describes the unreliable light of artificial knowledge, of which false religion is one variety. God took their light in the sense that falsehood does not stand in the presence of reality. Subjective projections do not remain intact in the face of objective truth. Finite man-made thought fails to apprehend the infinite in itself. They will not go back. They will not get back to reality or their source as long as they are totally preoccupied with their own fabrications. So then about this verse here, like a rain cloud from the sky in it, darkness, thunder, and lightning, they put their fingers in their ears. The manifestation of religion includes mystery, warning, enlightenment, and nourishment. These are symbolized by darkness, thunder, lightning, and rain. The ungrateful are mostly concerned with ignoring the warning for fear that it will prove true against them. What they do not realize is that reality encompasses them and judges them, whether or not they are consciously attentive of this fact. And then he says, the clarity of divine revelation is blinding to the eye, accustomed to the darkness of human confusion. With each renewal of revelation or revival of true knowledge, humanity makes some progress. When the infusion of inspiration subsides, however, humankind again stagnates. Although this process seems uncertain and erratic, at least humanity has a chance to use its God-given faculties to recognize revelation and live in its light. It is not the same as if we had no sense at all, like blind, deaf, and dumb. Alhamdulillah. Did the Prophet ﷺ explain the letters Alif Lam Mim at all? I mean, had he, we wouldn't have anything to say but what he said. The Prophet ﷺ, so much of the Quran, the Prophet, his life is his commentary. The Prophet ﷺ did not comment on very much of the Quran, because had he done that, nobody could interpret it after him. Had he told us, oh, it means this, then who would dare say that it meant something else?